Okay, good evening. Thank you for all coming out this evening. I don't know how many of you attended the town hall that we did at the PAC a few weeks ago. We got at least one. Thank you for coming again. Maybe this will be better. The more we rehearse it, maybe we'll get it right. Last meeting, we threw tons of numbers at people, and the feedback we got was too many numbers. So tonight, we may have too many words, but maybe in between the words and the numbers, we'll get the mix about right. But I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. You're going to go ahead and run that one. We'll go ahead and get this. Can you all hear me okay? I don't get the fancy microphone that Michael gets to use. That's only for Michael. I've got to hold this one. Years ago, someone had a vision of pecan plantation. Some thought it could never happen. Some had the foresight to take a chance at the property in the bend of the Brazos River. That continuing vision is why we're meeting here this evening. Each of us has different reasons why we moved to pecan plantation, but I think we would all say some of these amenities factored into our decision. Many enjoy the beautiful golf course, access to the lake and the marina where you can park your boat for easy access, maybe because of the wonderful tennis facility, or the large swimming pools, the PAC, or the playgrounds. Some of you moved here because you owned airplanes and wanted to take advantage of the wonderful air parks that we have. Some of us don't fly, but we love to watch our pilots flying around the neighborhood. Just don't take a ride with Dick Kite. No, I'm kidding. Some have moved here for the equestrian center, and many of us enjoy watching the horses romp around in the pastures and in the 4th of July parades. Many of us enjoy using the various parks, walking paths, playgrounds, soccer, baseball fields, which are places for our kids, grandkids, and friends to get together. Many also enjoy a peaceful walk with your dogs on our very own Pooch Plantation. Many of you chose to move here for reasons like the wonderful neighbors and the fun activities always listed in our Columns magazine. I bet many of you have attended at least one of these events: the Mardi Gras, Boot Scooting Dance, Christmas Party, New Year's Eve Party, Karaoke, Breakfast Club, or the volunteer lunch. And let's not forget the birthday dinners. Birthdays, not so much. Whether you choose to eat in the Brazos Room, the River Room, Marina, 19th hole, we all enjoy seeing our neighbors. Many of us chose pecan plantation for the peace of mind a gated, secure community provided. Having a top-rated EMS service is important to all, and we can never say thank you enough to the volunteers who are there when we need them. We all love seeing the abundant wildlife and have a love-hate relationship with our stately pecan trees. Many use the Pecan Clubhouse for volunteer activities, club meetings, lunch or dinner, and enjoy meeting with your neighbors. Speaking of neighbors, why don't you all turn and introduce yourself to somebody you don't know? Okay, that's enough. We don't want to get too neighborly here. I want to be written up as being too neighborly. I'm sure somebody will say that. Each of us here is responsible for all of the amenities we enjoy in Pecan. Our community is loaded with shared amenities, suggested by members and run through the various committees and paid for by everyone. Ours is a community of different ideas of what is best for all of us. Our Pecan Plantation Board of Directors is a clearinghouse for ideas and oversight for maintaining what we have while preparing for the future. We all enjoy our amenities, but they do come at the cost. The financial model that has been the bedrock of our community has worked for 40 years. It works when we have a strong economy and resulting new homes and new membership fees. 2017 was the busiest year ever for new builds and resales of existing homes and provides a great economic boost to all of us. However, not every year has been like 2017. In the past, there were some years where we could barely pay our bills. Amenities and assets were not maintained, and many fell into disrepair. When the good times came, catching up was and continues to be difficult. Many communities like ours have built-in inflation indexes which allow dues and assessments to at least keep up with rising costs. We do not have an inflation index and must ask members every 4 or 5 years for increases. The supermajority of 66 2/3 is a difficult bar to reach. This accordion effects makes it difficult to effectively plan. We understand that for some who live in our community, this is a financial burden, and we have explored ways to help our long-term members absorb some of these costs. We are faced this year with the need to return to the well and ask for an assessment increase of $9 per month. Let's put that in perspective. If you purchase a 6-pack of Revolver beer or wine, it costs you about $9. A gallon of Bluebell ice cream, not quite $9. If you purchase a cup of coffee and a muffin at the coffee shop, about $9. Or if you purchase 4 gallons of gasoline the past month, you spent at least $9. Some other considerations as we move forward. We operate as a nonprofit organization. We plan for some of our amenities to help pay for some of their costs, i.e. the Marina, Equestrian Center, Collins Magazine, or others provide funding for special projects, tennis, air park, golf, etc. If you look by the putting green, you'll see a new slab of concrete, and that's for the new pavilion that's going to be put up any day now that was completely funded by the Golf Association. We could build a profit into everything we do, but we don't. Your association provides some wonderful experiences for all members, like Mardi Gras, street dances, 4th of July, Oktoberfest, the kids' Easter egg hunt, Halloween party, haunted house, Christmas with Santa, volunteer luncheons, sports camps for kids, Christmas parties, breakfast clubs, member birthdays, just to name a few of the things that we provide. The cost to maintain and create new amenities is a constant struggle. Members have different ideas as to what is important, but we are inclusive. We don't ask each group to pay for just what they use. We share the costs for everyone so all can benefit. Our volunteer communities have presented to your board of directors a comprehensive list of projects which will need to be funded. Our community is growing. Last year was the largest growth year for new homes and home transfers in Pecan's history. With this growth, we must plan for the future so we will all be able to enjoy our community. We think all of you moved to Pecan in part because of all of the amenities, not just one or two. And that is what makes what we have a unique experience. Our real estate investments are protected when we improve our community. We also know we must do a better job of maintaining what we have. We have added additional staff to maintain our various assets. We have one full-time painter. That's all he does is paint. Management will continue to be held accountable for inspecting every asset at least twice a year and make recommendations for needed maintenance. It is not part of management's evaluations. Management will review our current management structure and make recommendations for a new, more effective and efficient organization this year. The board and management are frequently accused of not taking care of what we have. This is an ongoing theme, and there are many things that we can do better. 3 years ago, the Long Range Planning Committee outlined a multi-year process to maintain, renovate, and replace various assets which were well past their useful lives. We looked at every table, lamp, chair, vehicle, building, and asset we own in this process. The day purchased, the cost of replacement, and useful life were reviewed for replacement or renovation. Those tables were purchased in 2004, the square tables. They're on the long-range planning list, and I believe the tables cost $3,400 and scheduled for replacement in 2024, just as an example. These are the maintenance and renovation projects that have been completed in just the past 3 years, and this is by no means a complete list. We finished the renovation of the Pecan Golf Course and purchased new golf carts. We replaced the walkway from the parking lot to the pro shop and added a new pavilion so members can relax before and after their golf. We renovated the Brazos room and main kitchen. The updated Brazos room is now the most requested place to dine. All 6 tennis courts were resurfaced and lights were updated. A new floor was installed in the PAC, and we're in the process now of updating all the PAC lights. Each of the guest rooms in the inn were renovated with new furniture as well as updating the room locks and cable service. A new phone system was also installed. All will agree that our roads and drainage systems need work. We contracted to use a LiDAR system last year to obtain data that enables us to animate sections of our community to see how they will handle heavy rains. This will allow us to review and plan for new drainage projects and reduce some of the engineering costs that go with them. We resurfaced the Westover and front entry road. The front entrance was renovated with new brick. We completed the Westover Road drainage project. These, plus dozens of other road and drainage projects, were all completed. The retention pond at the 17th hole was completed and was a culmination of a major drainage project. The leak at the number 8 pond was also repaired and saves us thousands of gallons of lost irrigation water that was simply flowing back into the Brazos River. The new gazebo by the back gate was erected just this week. Numerous vehicles and equipment were purchased which are needed to maintain our roads, ditches, golf courses, and other amenities. At the marina, we extended the ramp so boaters can access the lake even when water levels are down. A new floating gas dock was just installed, which will make it safer to refuel and provide additional revenue with a credit card reader so anyone can purchase gas at our marina. New electronic signs were installed at the front and back entrances. The plantation pool was resurfaced and new chlorination equipment added, which will prolong the life of this favorite amenity. New sunshades and tables have also been added. Major renovations have included in the campground, including the new pavilion, new tables, and grills. The popular archery and BB gun center added a covered shooting area and a permanent building. In the equestrian center, we've added new flooring and a mobile home for the employee who feeds and services the various animals. Some of the renovations completed aren't as easy to see, but are as important in helping us to manage the resources that we have more effectively. A new website was launched that makes it easier to navigate and much easier to maintain and update. Its social media and community outreach capabilities enable us to attract more outside events to our community. These events for weddings and conferences, etc., provide needed income for our restaurants and for our inn. The new gate system, which is in the final stages of completion, will resolve many of the issues members face when they're bringing in family and friends. Members will be able to use their phones to call in, but no more busy signals, no more lost calls. Members will also be able to use their smartphones, computers, or other devices to manage their visitors, and it provides a new layer of security by collecting driver information on all guests and vendors. The out-of-town security process will let you notify security if you don't want anybody coming to your house while you're out of town. A new capital asset management program was introduced last year to make the process of identifying and approving new projects more effective. It will help us to identify needed projects and define the scope and cost of each project. So when people say we haven't done anything to maintain the facilities that we have, I think that's a fairly comprehensive list of just what's happened. And this is by no means a complete list of what's been done the last 3 years. And how much were your assessments increased for these maintenance and renovation projects? Zero. Nada. Nothing. We think these projects are worth the expenditures and will help to provide a better member experience in the future. I want to talk briefly about the different ballot initiatives. Ballot initiative number 1 requires a 66 2/3 majority vote. So here's what your board is asking for you to approve. There is no timeline for the completion of these projects, and they will be completed as funds are available. Renovate and expand the 19th hole and pro shop. Whoop. The cost of that is $1,750,000. And people say, boy, that's a lot of money, and it certainly is. Understand that that building is, this project is about 6,600 square feet of renovation. That comes out to a little over $250 per square foot. I recently read an article by the Golf Course Owners Association of America, and they project new build for a new clubhouse to be somewhere between $250 and $300 per square foot. We're looking at about $250 per square foot, but this isn't a new building. This building has been here a long time. In addition to adding new features, we have to take out a 40-year-old grease trap, a 40-year-old kitchen, asbestos. We have to make all the restrooms ADA compliant. We have to make the building ADA compliant. We have to replace the air conditioning system, the heating system. There's a lot of work that goes into this. This is not like building your home. I've heard people say, well, geez, it doesn't cost me that much to build our home. I would bet that none of you have ADA compliant bathrooms in your home. The Marina Grill and Store, that building, I guess, was purchased as it was 35 or however long, 40 years ago. It was the same building we bought 40 years ago. Very little has been done since we purchased that building. We've added a new grill and we've cleaned it up a little bit. But basically, that building is a mess. There's no better, I can't come up with a more positive word for the marina. It needs to come down. The nice thing about the marina, how many of you have eaten at Stumpy's or the Mesquite Pit barbecue area? Why do you like to eat there? One of the things we like is they have a great view, a great location. Is there a better location or view in Granbury than the one that we have from our marina? We think that a rebuild of the marina and taking full advantage of the view that is there will attract new business. It'll be a nice place for members to go and have a drink and a margarita, watch the sunset in the new Marina Grill. And if you look up here, there's pictures of all these amenities that I'd ask you to come up, take a look at what they are. Go stand at the marina and take a look across the lake and at sunset and tell me you don't think that's a good place to spend the night. The Brazos Room expansion, what we're really talking about is the behind the Brazos Room we have an area that's a patio. We put some plastic covers on that. We would like to enclose that, heat and air condition it. It would give more seating for our bar area. It would take some of the noisy bar people that like to hang in there. We can kind of move them out from the rest of the diners. But it gives us some additional options. We think a very popular place for people. People love to sit out there when it's not too hot or not too cold. Unfortunately, that's only about 2 days a year. The last thing is to renovate the ballroom, these 2 rooms. If you've been here for a large meeting, you know that if you're sitting there, you can kind of see the screen. If you're sitting there, you might see the screen. This is a very awkward venue to use for any kind of meetings and conferences. I'm talking to Jonathan Thomas. We turn away business every year for weddings and conferences because of the configuration of this room. When we have large events, it's noisy, it's awkward, it's difficult for presenters. We want to renovate this room. In addition to renovating this room, we want to move that way. We want to make it big enough so that we can attract large groups in here so that we can seat all of our members. Right now, we have a seating capacity, I think, of 225 people. So we can't even get 10% of our members, and even if we enlarge it, we're not going to get them all in, but we think that as we move forward, it's important that this asset needs to be renovated, it needs to be enlarged, and we're a growing community. We have grown more people the last year than any year in the club's history. Understand that these estimates are for concept design and were provided by architects. All projects will be bid, and we'll have the budget constraints of $2.5 million for a $2.5 million line of credit and a $9 assessment increase. Let's take a look at our assessments. You've all seen this slide before, but this shows that we have you pay $90.75 per month for the general account. You pay $8 a month, let me repeat that, that's not a misprint, $8 a month for capital reserves. And what's capital reserve for? Taking care of our facilities. So we have $8 a month that you pay for. When people say you don't maintain your building, understand that we're allocated $8 a month per member to do those kind of things. Roads and drainage is $19 a month. And if you look at the footnote down below, that may be reduced. That $9 of that will go away in 2024 unless at that point we decide that we want to continue with that $9 assessment. The trash pickup and EMS contributions that we pay for are pass-throughs for pecan plantation. We have nothing to do with the management of those operations. We simply take your payments and forward them to those organizations. I thought it would be interesting to take a look at some of the other communities to see what they're like. So if we don't like what we do here, you can move to De Cordova. It's cheaper. Not really, because they're getting ready to take another $20 increase, and actually we're cheaper than them anyway. You can move to Harbor Lakes. The initiation fee is $5,000, and you can pay $305 a month, and you can pay $550 for your own cart. Mira Vista, it only costs $40,000 to join. $613 a month. No private carts. You got to rent their cart every time you play. Of course, we know the Colonial's a bargain at $65,000 and $592 a month. So those of you who don't like playing golf at Pecan Plantation, they have openings at Colonial. They would love to have your money. And that doesn't include carts. You have to pay $30 every time you play Colonial to use one of their carts. If you look at Bridlewood, a semi-private club, they're $325 a month, but no private clubs, no private carts. Diamond Oaks is $2,200, initiation $321 a month. And there at the bottom is little old Pecan Plantation. You have a $3,500 membership fee and $151 a month. And if you want to use our carts or rent a cart, it's $30 a month. If we take a look at Pecan Plantation with all the golf courses in America, there are about 10,000 private courses in America. We are number 10,000 in terms of the cost of operating your golf course. So when people complain about it's so expensive to play golf, understand that Colonial is taking memberships. The financials. Our financials are complicated and difficult for most of us to understand. Here's a brief picture of our capital reserve fund balances through 2027. You will see in the next slide that in 2020, the fund dips close to the required $500,000 threshold. By our bylaws, we cannot drop below $500,000 in that account. That $500,000 is there in the event of an emergency, unplanned expense, so we have to maintain that $500,000. The reason it drops is that in 2019 and 20, a scheduled irrigation project for the golf course will be completed. This project was slated for completion 20 years ago. For 20 years, the boards have been kicking this can down the road. If we had done this project in 1997, we could have done it for a lot less than the $1.8 million it's going to cost us to do this project. We can decide to kick that can down the road again and again and again and again. And what that does is it prevents us from maintaining the golf course the way that we like. We're not looking at a catastrophic failure here. It's simply a matter of maintaining an asset that we have. When we built the new golf course, it was suggested that we put the new irrigation system in. But again, we kicked that can down the road. So We got that in the budget for 2018 and 2019, and after that project is completed, you'll see what happens. This is a little confusing. It looks like, geez, look at 2027, we got $3 million in the bank. You see in 2020, we dropped down to $515,000. As we look forward, this is your capital asset reserve balances. The money that's in there is for replacement of our chairs, and our tables, and our lights, and our fans, and our stages, and our projectors. It doesn't include any money for renovations of any equipment. These are all pretty much scheduled repairs, replacement of vehicles, replacement of assets, but without any major costs of renovation built into those plans. And if we get this initiative passed, we get this $9 increase, we don't have to tap into this reserve balance for a long, long time to take care of the new things that need to happen in our community in the future. It's not like we have $2 million sitting in the bank right now. This is money that will be accumulated. Some of this money has not been budgeted. It's in the long-range plan. These are what we have in the long-range plan cost to replace these various assets. We're willing to sit around after the meeting, and Bob Zemsky can do a number on you with his numbers, so you go see Bob. With approval of a $9 assessment increase, we can make substantial improvements to some of our most important assets and without depleting our reserves. Without this increase, many of our assets will continue to deteriorate and renovation costs will continue to escalate. We have a beautiful bargain pecan. Let's keep it that way. Almost done. Ballot initiative number 2 is simply ask for approval to finish 2 projects whose cost is over $50,000, and our bylaws require those to get a minority approval of 50%. Those 2 projects are the addition of a 7th tennis court and 4 pickleball courts. Pickleball is one of the fastest growing sports in America. We have a very active pickleball group here. Any pickleball players here? And if you try to play pickleball in the park, you understand when they say there are dead spots in floors where the ball hits and just pancakes. So we're fortunate to have the PAC Center to play pickleball. We believe that many communities, I believe the place up in Denton, I can't remember, has 20 outdoor pickleball courts. Robson Ranch. We want to just add 4 outdoor pickleball courts. We plan to put them over there by where the outdoor basketball court is behind the tennis courts, and we think that's an amenity that a lot of members will enjoy. There's no assessment increase for this initiative. Our new capital asset fund should be able to finance these projects, and our tennis association has aided up for a good portion of the cost of the additional tennis court. But because these each are over $50,000, we must ask member approval. Again, there is no cost for this initiative. At the beginning, I said there was a vision of pecan. This is a true perspective of long-range planning and what can happen with committee members and the funding needed to move forward. So this was the original vision. We've come a long way. We're a bargain. We're a wonderful place to live, a wonderful place to retire, to bring your friends and grandkids, and we're asking for your approval to help us spend some money to keep it that way. And at this point, I'll ask the board members to come up and we'll entertain any questions. Thank you. If you have any questions, please come to the mic. Just identify yourselves and ask any questions you'd like to ask. Thank you. Anybody? Wow. I bored him to tears.
Yeah, I think you did a great job. And I mean, really is a clear explanation of why we need to move forward with this assessment increase. And so I hope you all are favorable toward it. And I guess, Lisa, you're up. Huh?
Should the board initiative not pass, what would be the first available time that we could expect a renovation of the 19th hole / pro shop?
We had 2027. Where are you, Ross?
If you look at the plans, we wouldn't have the $1.7 million by 2027. What's going to happen to that $1.2 million over the next 10 years? I understand that with all the numbers that we showed up there, which came out $1.7 million for the 19th hole, $500,000 for the marina, each of those projects has a built-in 10% overage in the event that things don't go. If you've ever built a home, you know that you have a plan of what you're going to spend to build your home, but you change your mind, you decide to do things differently, or you get a change order and costs go up. So we've got $300 and some thousand built into these plans to help us. We hope that we can do all these projects for less. One of the things when we get into renovations, we don't know all that we're going to find. It may be cheaper, it may be more expensive. If we don't pass this, it doesn't mean that none of these other projects can go forward. We may have enough funds to take on a project like the marina, but the big project like the 19th hole and the pro shop renovation, we probably won't be able to address that until 2027.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
2037. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I'll be dead by then, so.
Now, Bob Cote isn't here, but he assured me that if we passed, we remedied the 19th hole, that he and his 5 drinking buddies would take care of all the costs over the next 10 years. So.
My name is Donna Thompson, and this may be a question that's been answered, but I haven't heard the answer. But why wouldn't you approach this in a piecemeal fashion? In other words, why wouldn't you say, let's vote on the 19th hole renovation, and then a few years later, let's look at the marina redo?
We looked at, I think I want you all to understand, this board is bloodied and bruised, and they're self-inflicted. We looked at the ways to do these projects every which way we can, and one of the things we looked at was doing a separate ballot initiative for each amenity. If you don't play golf, well, you're going to pay for the 19th hole. If you don't play tennis, well, you're going to pay for the tennis court. If you don't use the marina, would you pay for the marina? And our collective thought was that if we tried to do that, we might pass some things, we wouldn't get to the other things. We're trying to do something that, in what we're doing, there's something for just about every group that's in Pecan. If this doesn't pass, we may decide that was a wrong strategy, and the new board will have to take a look at that in future years. But we looked at that very carefully. We looked at doing it exactly that way. But you know, would we get a $1 increase for the pickleball courts? I don't know. But we thought it was more confusing to have lots of initiatives on there than to put them all together. We're talking about $9.
I don't know why any of us would be opposed to the $9. I think have that be a standalone, because we know what value we have here. And to me, I think the $9 is an easy pass. But I think it's complicated. It's muddied by all of this. It's almost overwhelming. And I think we all know about shared amenities, and I don't think it'd be any problem. I have no problem paying for pickleball courts. I think, because I think we see the benefit of a shared amenity.
And we don't charge for any amenities out here. We can't charge players to play golf, and we can't charge landing fees at the marina. Those are in our bylaws. We don't charge our tennis players to play tennis. And we don't charge our pickleball players to play pickleball, and the marina, on the other hand, we do charge to keep your boat at the marina slips. So some amenities, the equestrian center people pay for boarding their horses. So I'm not paying to board somebody's horse, and I'm not paying for you to have a boat, but we're paying for everything else. We're all, whether we use, probably none of us use all these amenities, but we all get the benefit of having all these amenities for us to use.
Thank you.
I think
Court and the tennis court, the pickleball court and the tennis court, as you refer to, that is not coming out of our capital asset reserve fund. So that's not included in this assessment increase.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Just have to ask some questions.
I'd like to add one more thing to Ross's answer to the last lady's question, and that is that the reason we don't string this out year after year is because, particularly with regard to the clubhouse and the marina, these facilities are at least 40 years old, and they're in bad need of repair and updating now. And so it didn't make a lot of sense to string these projects out and have put these things up for vote year after year. These are all things that really need to be done now because, one, the facilities are in bad need of renovation, and two, if we string it out, the cost will only go up.
So Lisa and I obviously go to the Hull, and we hear the complaints of the odor, the smell, and knowing the situation, the sewer and the asbestos, if you're saying we don't pass this 2037, how soon will it be condemned or be forced to be shut down by the health department? And the second thing is that we come to a lot of events here, and I did the numbers, and out of all the members in Pecan right now, is it true that only 0.0226%, 2% of our community can come to an event and get in without being turned away? Because I heard a lot of those complaints recently. Is that fairly accurate?
It's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse as we grow. I'd like to talk about the 19th hole. The House Food and Beverage Committee looked at a number of different options, one of which was to move the pro shop and the 19th hole up on the elevated hill right in front of the handicap parking area. We thought that, we could put a 3,000 square foot footprint and several stories up might be a better, more economical way to go. That came in at $4 million. And it would have been an ideal situation for us to have a separate building there with the pro shop, and golf pro could look out and see what's coming, and folks could come in. There'd be a glass facade to look out over the green space. But $4 million is too much. We looked at another option that was about $700,000, and it wouldn't do what we wanted it to do. So the ideal situation that was presented to the board came from the member-driven House Food and Beverage Committee that studied all these options and came up with this proposal now. You got to look at what the 19th hole could look like. When we go in there, we put one nail in the wall. We have to do asbestos abatement. We're down in the basement. We have to rip concrete up to redo all the plumbing. And we're talking about commercial building. So I think it's an economical way to go. And like you say, Kevin, if we don't do it now, we're going to have to eventually do it later. And this is really the time to do it, I think.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I don't mean to cut you off, but right now we can seat maybe 30 people in the 19th hole. Maybe. It hardly services the members who are here. If you want to order something to eat in the 19th hole, where does the food come from? Right here. So they cook your food, they put it in a warmer, they take it down the hall, they walk down the steps, they take it down the elevator, you take it down to the 19th hole, and they say, "Excuse me, can I have another dressing?" Walk upstairs, come to it's very inefficient. You know, the idea with the 19th hole is we'll put a new kitchen in down there. We'll have a bar menu that you can order pizzas and hot dogs and hamburgers and French fries, but you're not going to be able to get the salmon salad special. We think that there's a lot that we can do efficiency-wise by having a place where people can get bar food and eat it down there without having to have it cooked. At Jonathan's, people say, well, our cost of delivering food is too expensive. That's one of the reasons.
So $9 to turn into 18 or 25, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years from now if we don't do it now. So in other words, if you don't vote for it, be careful what you ask for and you get what you pay for. Is that accurate?
Right.
That's accurate. Thank you.
Yeah. Is anything cheaper today than it was 5 years ago?
In my opinion, but other than that.
Now, your opinion was worthless then.
I'm Ray Scott, board member from 2010 to 2013. And I think all of these projects definitely have merit, and I support it, and I support the $9. I do think to keep in mind, if this were to fail, one of the greatest needs that we have definitely is the expansion of the ballroom and river room. This affects so many events, affects pretty much anyone that uses the clubhouse, and it's been on a long-term plan for a long time. And so I just want to, as a member, since we don't get that many opportunities to express this, my feelings of how important that particular project is. Thank you.
We're glad you're here for the Christmas party. And how was the seating arrangement at the Christmas party? I mean, people couldn't find seats in here. They couldn't find room to stand in the hall. They couldn't find room to stand in the lobby. They couldn't find room to stand in the 19th hole. They were hanging out the balconies in the back, and we finally had to clear the place. But we don't have sufficient space. This building was built 40 years ago with the assumption that we would get to about 2,000 members. We're over 3,500 memberships, and somewhere 7,000, 7,500 people live in our community.
Let me just make a comment here. The Christmas party was so crowded, I was having to sit with Mr. Zemsky over there. That's how bad it was. One of the issues that we're missing here, I think it's 3,051 members. I'm just, one of the issues, each of us own a home here that are members. And ultimately, we're going to want to sell our home. And if we don't maintain what we have and we don't make new amenities, do you think people are going to continue to want to come to Pecan Plantation and own a home here? So if we don't take care of what we have and we don't offer new amenities, it's going to be a hard sell to these people. Because we grew by, I believe, 50 members last year, new ones?
45, yeah.
45 members. We're building townhouses. They're building new homes all the time. So we're having new members here. We need new members here. In order to attract them, we need to continue to make Pecan what we all know it can be.
Hi, my name is John Milburn, and I want to clarify, really what you're asking for is a line of credit authorization for $9. Because my worry is, I think you're underestimating the size that you're going to have to build this for. We're only 2/3 the way built out, 2/3 today. That means we're having, if it passes, 7 tennis courts, but the ratio says we'll need 10 or 11 when we're built out. The ratio says we'll need a second 18-hole golf course. We're going to need some other things that need to happen. And when I did some research, we should be paying $129.40 if you take the $32 that was originally established in 1978 and just do the consumer price index over that period of time. That doesn't include anything for capital or roads and bridges. They didn't even think about that then. That's where they made the mistake. We're 40 years later, and just think if you didn't do anything to your house for 40 years, and now everything's come due on it. New roof, everything's outdated, and we still have got 1,500 people that want to come be attracted. we want to sell our house. When we go to the retirement home or assisted living, we still need that money to live on. So I'm voting favorably for the line of credit at $9. Whether the product comes in at $800,000 or $1 million, that's their decision. They're going to have to work through. And why not finish it at $9 when it's all finished? Well, I'll bet you there'll be some other issues that are going to crop up because we have a 40-year-old animal that was put off and put off and put off. And it's just going to be like for our kids with Social Security. They're not going to have anything because nothing was done soon enough to take care of it. So I give you my positive vote.
Well, we mentioned in the presentation that many communities like ours have a cost of an inflation index built into their assessments. I was recently in Hilton Head, South Carolina a few months ago at Sea Ponds Plantation. I don't know if any of you have been there. Beautiful place in Hilton Head, and I talked to my brother-in-law who's lived there for 40 years. I said, how do you fund this place? He says, I don't know, I get a bill every month. I said, well, do you do assessment increases? Now every year the inflation indicator goes in, or whatever that goes to, that's how much we pay. They don't go through the angst, and I call it the accordion effect, that every 5 years we have to go with our hat in hand and say, please give us some money to maintain our facilities. There was a great deal of discussion about putting that on the ballot this year. We felt it was just going to be more confusing than we were already. I think long term, if we had a cost of living or inflation index built into our assessments, we would get to where we would get with the $9. We would just already be there. We're going to get to where we should be with a $9 increase, but it's going to be behind where we should be by the time the money comes in. So, that's going to be another board's decision to move forward, thankfully. Those are things that, we had some information from the Granbury Chamber of Commerce. There are going to be 5,000 homes built in Granbury in the next 4 or 5 years. And imagine that's pecan plantation in 4 or 5 years. The demand for housing is going to go up. We're still a better deal than Harbor Lakes. We're still a better deal than De Cordova. We've got much more to offer than those facilities. The demand for our real estate is going to continue to increase. And the demand for that increase can only do two things. That will drive your values up, but not if we don't take care of what we have. Because when people come in here looking at houses, they want to walk around and see what we have, what does it look like. And if they go to the marina and base their decision on buying a house in Pecan Plantation, they may choose to go to Harbor Lakes. So it's important that we continue to do this.
Everybody seems to be positive tonight, but I know there's some negative opinions out there. Is there anybody willing to come into the mic and tell us what your concerns are, why you may not vote for this? Otherwise, hell, this is going to pass 100%.
Well, I'm hoping that this whole group is in favor of this initiative. We have a huge hurdle to get over. We have a difficult time getting to 66 2/3. And I understand for a lot of people, this is a financial burden. We've looked at some things to try and lessen the burden for some of the long-range residents. That's another problem for another board. But if the community, if you get out and tell your friends when they ask you that you support this, I think we have a half a chance to get there. If we don't, it's not the end of the world. We're still going to be open for business, and we can still take on some of these projects, but some of the big ones, the 19th hole and the pro shop, will probably, and this ballroom, will probably not be done for a while in our lifetime, Lou says. Go ahead.
I'd like to add, too, if we don't do the 19th hole in Pro Shop, we're going to have to put money into just cleaning up the 19th hole as it is. It needs paint, it needs sheetrock. There's a lot of expense that we're going to have to add into it you know, that might just be wasted if we then 4 or 5 years later rip it all out and renovate.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jay Foster. Last year, they were asking us for $6 to build a fitness center. I know it didn't get passed, but now it's $9. Look at what we're getting, more than a fitness center. To me, this is a no-brainer. I mean, $9 for all these improvements. I would hope that all of us in this room would go home and get on social media, next door, whatever, and promote this. This is ridiculous that we won't do these improvements for $9. Come on.
Thank you, Jay. We like that.
Let me address one of the things that has popped up more than once in terms of why do we care if we don't get an outside function that to come to our facility. And I would suggest to you that for those of you who have lived in larger country club communities, they do in fact go after business outside of their members. And the reason being the profit margin of what they do to outsiders is a hell of a lot different than what they do to their members. And the revenues that they generate from those projects comes back to help offset the things that they can do for their own members. So the fact that we not only can't service our own members in terms of the size of our facility, the lost opportunity to add some additional income to provide greater service and greater benefits to our own members also goes away.
Ross, for all the naysayers out there in cyberland who are planning on watching this at home on video, would you please explain in a little bit more detail what the $2.5 million line of credit looks like? That's been a big question out there.
I'm going to turn it over to a banker.
We're asking to approve up to $2.5 million, okay, for a period of only 10 years. Whether it's an individual loan or a line of credit, we haven't really talked to a bank yet to narrow that down. We will probably not go for the full amount at one time because really the 19th hole and pro shop is the first priority to get that in, because the longer we wait on that, the more costly it becomes. So basically, with it, even though the loan or the commitment may for it be for $2.5 million, I anticipate right now we would only use $2.25 million of a loan or a line of credit. That's what the two items or two projects, which is the marina and the 19th hole, and that would be for starting in 18 and then 19, and then in 2021 we would start with two other projects, and in the 5th or 6th year we would use our excess funds that are in the capital reserve funds to take care of these other projects. But the money that we would borrow would basically pay for the first two projects only. Does that help?
So, Bob, when we take out the loan, we won't necessarily be having a bank write a check to us for $2.5 million and stick it in the bank.
You all heard of construction loans or something along those lines.
That's what needs to be clarified.
A negotiation point. We would not borrow the money all at one time. What we would do is set it up with a bank or some lending institution that we found favorable and give us a good rate, etc. But anyway, we can then indicate that if it's a construction loan, we would only have draws at the times we need it for the contractors. So we would not have to pay. So it just depends on the best deal that we can find. But I feel very comfortable that we can find a damn good deal right now, because the longer we wait, the higher the interest rate's going to be.
Bob, last year when we were working on the fitness center in a similar kind of financial structure, which would have been $6, we had a bank. There's a banker that lives in Pecan, and he was working with us, and He was very happy to work toward a 4.5% loan in a similar situation. And I asked him why he would loan us that money. He said, well, you guys have a guaranteed asset that is not going to go away, so we feel we're going to get paid. What do you mean? Well, you're taking in $143 a month from your members every month. That's not going to go away. So we feel certain that we'll get paid. So pecan plantation going out into the banking community, we're a good risk. And so we might have banks competing to get our business. And I think we can get a low-interest loan. And that will protect the capital reserve, and it'll let us do these projects in a timely manner instead of having to wait for 5, 10, even 15 years before we can get started. For over the past 2 or 3 years, we've been working on this process, trying to figure out the way to finance these projects, and I think we're in a good position to do it. We just need your permission. We need your support.
I'd like to clarify a couple of things. We're the board of directors, and we're up here passing paper around, but we're not doing this in a vacuum. Let me introduce Bob. Stand up again. Bob Zemsky, who talks like a banker because he used to be, is head of our finance committee. So he's riding herd over all the finances, and all of the data that comes up to the board having to do with finances comes through his committee. Lou, you didn't introduce yourself. Stand up a second. Lou is head of food and beverage. So when he talks about what kind of gain we might get by improving the 19th hole financial return on investment, that's where that comes from. So the Food and Beverage Committee has been involved in this entire project. Thanks, Lou.
You know, another thing, if the economy stays good and the growth in pecan continues at the rate it's going, we may be able to pay that debt down quicker than the 10 years. So that would save the community a lot. It all depends on what's the financial position of pecan moving forward. But there's no reason we may find that we have the capital to go ahead and escalate the payment on that debt, clean it out earlier, and save us a bunch of money in the process.
I hope this doesn't confuse things, but we have 4 funds that we use: Capital Asset Reserve, our Operations Fund, our Road and Drainage Fund, and a new fund called the New Capital Asset Fund. That eventually is going to help us to do projects like this, but I don't think it has just a few $100,000 in it now, because it gets its funds from now any new house that comes into pecan over that magic 3,000 number. So we're at 3,051. So we've had 51 new houses times, I think it's about $3,200 for every new house, our initiation fee. Eventually, that fund will build up, and we can use that money to build these new projects like the pickleball court or the 7th tennis court. So that money is set aside for new projects, but we don't want to use it yet. Not enough money in it. Let's build it up. So there's been an awful lot of thought going into how we're going to finance these things. We're in a good position financially, and I think $9 assessment increase is an honest and thoughtful amount for all of us to consider. So I don't go on next door, but I'd like to see some of you people that are in the room today that communicate there repeat what we've told you tonight, and how thoughtful, how much thought's been going into this, and let's see if we can cut through that negative chatter.
We're going to post the slides I used. It'll be on the PPOA website tomorrow, and it'll get on Nextdoor Pecan later this week too.
I'd like to make one statement. Currently, we're estimating $1.7 million to do the 19th hole in Pro Shop. Well, that number came from our architect that did the concept formulation. And his number was actually about $1.5 million. And our financial committee says we need a reserve, so we added basically 10% to push it up to about 1.7. Now, if we get approval and we go forward with the 19th hole in Pro Shop, the next step will then to take that concept formulation out and get detailed build-out plans and quotes from builders. So there's a good chance that this could come in cheaper than that 1.7. And if it does, we're not going to spend 1.7. We'll spend whatever it comes in. So that 1.7 is just right now an estimate with a pretty healthy fudge factor. So it should be a fairly good, accurate number. And but there's a process we go through. We'll put out bids. We will get, you know, all the proper purchasing and contracting that we normally do before we go forward with a project. So this is not just pull the number out of the air and we're going to run out and spend 1.7 million. That's not the way it's done.
Mr. President? We're out of questions, and we're probably out of commentary up here, and I think we ought to all go down the 19th hole right now. Go down there, and let's see if they can accommodate us. Thank you all for coming.